Hello everyone and welcome to another video. I made a video about the Surface Pro 11 a while back, and in that video I mentioned that I never understood the point of tablets and how they became this popular. Regardless, I did buy a tablet, but since all I do on the tablet is to take notes and do daily stuff, I wanted to get something cheaper. So I did a little bit of research and I came across this Lenovo tablet. It sells on AliExpress for around 400 Canadian dollars, but the price depends on whatever sale's running, so it might be a little bit cheaper or a little bit more expensive. I made the order on May 13th and it arrived on May 22nd, which is 9 days. That's pretty normal for AliExpress orders coming into Canada. And with that, let's have a look at the specs. We have an 8-core MediaTek Dimensity 8300 processor, which seems to be in between the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 and the Gen 2. In terms of RAM, you have two options, 8 gigs or 12 gigs. I went for the 12 gig variant, but not necessarily because of the RAM. In terms of storage, you have two options once again, 128 or 256. I went for the 256 variant, so I essentially have the maxed out version of this tablet, and the trick there is that the 256 gig variant is faster. It has a faster storage, it supports UFS 4.0, whereas the 128 gig variant only supports UFS 3.1. We have a 12.7-inch LCD display with a resolution of 2944 by 1840. It also has a refresh rate of 144 Hz and a maximum brightness of 600 nits. It also supports HDR, and in my opinion, it's a great screen. We also have a 10,200 mAh battery, and we'll talk about the battery life later in the video. In terms of ports, we have one USB-C port and the 3 dots to connect the keyboard. The USB-C port is USB 3 Gen 1, so it supports speeds up to 5 gigabits per second. There's no headphone jack, which I don't really care about anymore. Aside from those, this tablet has GPS, Bluetooth 5.4, and Wi-Fi 6. It's interesting that a device that came out in 2025 doesn't have Wi-Fi 7, but the speeds seem to be fine. Lastly, we have Android 14 installed on this tablet, but since this is a device that just came out, I'm assuming it's gonna get Android 15 and 16. Speaking of the software, if we look at the AliExpress page, it clearly states that this has a China ROM. That means that it shouldn't have Google Play by default, but the listing clearly states that this has Google Play support. We'll look into that. And with that, let's move on to unboxing. It literally just got delivered like 5 minutes ago. It came in this thing, and on top of this thing there was a plastic wrapper, so you couldn't necessarily tell what's in the box. I also ordered this pencil, which also arrived. This is very light, we'll look into that one as well. As you can tell, this is brand new, has a plastic wrapper, has the tabs right here. It does seem to have taken a little bit of damage on this side. It most probably just fell on this corner, but I don't think that's gonna cause any issues. So let's just unbox it. With step 1 out of the way, we're gonna remove the tabs. I know I could have just pulled them, but this is easier. And here we go. Still waiting. There we go. And here's the tablet. Let's pull the tab. Let's see what it comes with. So I'll put the tablet aside for now. I'll lift this. We have a US spec charger, as far as I'm aware. We have a USB-C to C cable. We don't know if this is USB 2 or USB 3. We have a SIM tool, which I'm assuming we're gonna use for the micro SD card slot if this has one. We have a user manual in Chinese. Obviously, getting this from AliExpress means that you're realistically not gonna get any warranty. You could still reach out to the seller and ask if anything happens after the first 15 days or 30 days, whatever the buyer guarantee thingy is. But after that, you can still reach out to the seller. Sometimes they honor a warranty, sometimes they don't. I've had fantastic luck with AliExpress. Aside from that, we'll see if there's anything underneath the main compartment, and nope, that is all that this tablet comes with. With that, let's peel this off. Oh, it's not a fun peel. It is not a fun peel. So we're just gonna tear it open then. Perfect. First impressions, it definitely looks like an iPad Pro. I can tell that the bezels are on the thicker side, and I can tell that without even turning on the tablet. On the back, it is all metal. We have not a textured design, but something that looks like a texture on this side. We have a singular camera with a flash. This looks a lot like the Leica integration, Leica partnership that some Chinese brands had back in the day. I don't know if that's still a thing. And last but not least, we have a regulatory sticker. I'm pretty sure we can take that off. I will definitely take that off. All right, so I cleaned the tablet off a little bit. Let's turn it on. I press the button. Hopefully its battery is not fully flat. Let's try it again. I pressed the wrong button. This is the power button. That is exactly like an iPad. We have a power button on top and 2 volume buttons on the side. We also have the 3 dots that will allow us to connect this to a keyboard. I did not buy that. I did buy a case, but it hasn't arrived yet. I'm pretty sure that's gonna come in tomorrow. All right, so try again. Press the button. Perhaps press and hold. All right, oh, there we go. Okay. There we go. Okay, so the first step, as you can tell, everything is in Chinese. We're gonna press continue. We have English, which is fantastic. We're gonna do next. We are going to connect to a network. All right, first and foremost, the background is straight from macOS. The dock is the same. I think the new iPad OS looks this way as well. Do we have the Play Store? Is the actual question. That is how we get there. All right, so we do not have Play Store. All right, so as you can see, the Play Store is installed. I actually did go through this step by step, but the camera had an autofocus problem and the microphone wasn't working properly. So we fixed those. I installed the Play Store and I'm going to show you real quick how to do it. The first thing we need to do is to go to settings. Once we are in the settings, we're gonna go to apps. It doesn't cooperate, of course. There we go. Once we're in apps, we're gonna go to Google Basic Services and then we're gonna enable it. Here, obviously it's already enabled since I have the Play Store installed, but this is the step 1. Step 2 is to go to the Chinese App Center, wait for it to load, and then once it fully loads, we're gonna go here and then we're just gonna look for Google. Google Play Services, we have Google Play right here. Since I already have it installed, I'm assuming this means open, but if you don't have it installed, it's just gonna be the icon for install, and then it's just gonna install it. Once you press install for any app on this Chinese app store, it gets stuck at 0% for a while. No need to worry, it downloads and installs just fine, just something to keep in mind. Once that's done, we can have a look at the installed apps. There were a couple of Chinese apps that were pre-installed, but fortunately you can remove them all with no issues. There are a couple apps that you can only disable and not fully uninstall, and one of them is the Chinese App Center. The other one that I recommend you remove or disable is the browser. If we go to settings again, under apps, we go all apps and browser is right here and it's disabled. And that is because if we enable it and go to the browser, as you can see, it's all in Chinese. There's no way to change the language. And if you search for something, it's just gonna search it on Bing. But I'm assuming this is the Chinese Bing. I don't exactly know what this is, but there are Chinese characters everywhere and this is just gonna hinder the overall experience. Instead, I have Google Chrome installed and it seems to be working just fine. Another app that I ended up uninstalling is the keyboard. By default, this tablet has 2 keyboards, the default Google keyboard and this Sogu keyboard. I uninstalled it, but we have the option to restore it if we want to. I don't see why we would do that because this keyboard is also mainly based on Chinese, so when you try to do things in English, it doesn't always work well. I'm also not a huge fan of the Google keyboard, so I ended up installing SwiftKey, and once again, that works well. Also, I'm gonna end up keeping the Chinese App Store because there are some apps that I wanted to download, such as Antutu Benchmark, that are available on the Chinese App Store but not on Google Play. With these things out of the way, we can finally start testing the tablet. When I first picked up the tablet, it had Zui 16, which is Android 14, but apparently it was an earlier version, so it installed 3 updates in total. But what I found to be interesting is that it went through them sequentially. So let's say we were on version 1, it first installed version 2, then version 3, and then version 4. I would expect it to do a simple upgrade from version 1 to version 4, but this works too, I guess. The newest version available is Zui 17, which is not yet available for this tablet, but I'm assuming it's going to be at some point. This is a China-only ROM, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to get any updates. Alright, so with the Google Play Store installed and the Chinese apps removed, let's see how this tablet fares in daily use. First and foremost, the screen. I mentioned earlier that this is a 12.7-inch screen, which is on the larger side of tablets, which is good in my opinion. There are also some smaller tablets, also from Lenovo and different brands, but to me this size is great because I'm essentially just using this as a large notebook to take notes on. To me this is a plus. For some people this might be an issue, but at least this is something that you'll know about up front, so to each their own. The resolution, 2944 by 1840, it's pretty good. I haven't been able to count the pixels anywhere, so that's a plus. The peak brightness is 600 nits, which is better than some tablets, but it clearly falls behind the top contenders like the iPad or even the newer Lenovo tablets. That being said, 600 nits is not bad at all. Just think about this, most of the budget and mid-range laptops have a maximum brightness of around 400 nits, and it's quite hard to see the screen on those devices when it's sunny outside or the sun directly shines on them. This one is a bit better. There's a little bit more glare than I would like there to be, but regardless, I think the peak brightness is completely fine. This is currently at 100% manually set. I don't have the automatic brightness on right now since we're filming a video, but normally the auto brightness works as well, albeit it's a little bit on the conservative side, so it'll tend to set the screen a little bit dimmer than I would like it to be, but that is nothing that you can't change just by swiping down and changing the brightness. The refresh rate is one of the biggest selling points of this tablet, and it's a huge plus when you're doing basic stuff like scrolling up and down or changing between pages. It makes a huge difference. We have a JBL speaker setup and the sound quality is pretty good. Let's give it a listen. It definitely goes loud enough, and the sound quality, in my opinion, I'm in no way an audiophile, but in my opinion, the sound quality is pretty good too. I haven't had any issues downloading any apps from the Google Play Store, so it's not like there's a compatibility problem. In fact, this tablet is pretty much the same as the Lenovo P12 Pro, if I'm not mistaken, so whatever apps are compatible with that tablet will be compatible with this too. And we can tell just by looking at device info. We can wait for it to load, it's just going to take a hot sec. And then we can go to device, and if we scroll down here, not under device, under system, we see that the security level is L1, which means that we should be able to watch 4K content on Netflix. In case you didn't know, if you want to watch 4K content on Netflix or other copyright protected platforms, your device needs to have some sort of a security certificate, and it's nice to see that this one has it. The only issue that I had that might somehow be related to this tablet not being a global tablet was with Google Chrome. I managed to sign in just fine. I signed in with my Google account and then it synchronized all my bookmarks, all my payment information, all that stuff except for my passwords. For the passwords, what I needed to do was to export them using another computer and then import them here. And once I did that, I was able to use my passwords, but otherwise it just didn't work. Alright, so with that, let's move on to the performance. First and foremost, in daily tasks, this tablet is completely fine. This is how I usually use my tablet, with a bunch of apps open on top of Chrome, and even when we do that, this is 4K YouTube by the way, even when we do that, there's absolutely no slowdowns, and that is just great to see. For multitasking, you have a bunch of options. One of them is these floating screens, but if we want even more stuff, let's say I'm gonna put the device info, I can move it right here. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 apps open, and they all work just fine. We can try to add one more. I don't know what we would add. Let's try gallery. This is here as well, and as you can see, everything seems to be fine, nothing slowed down. And this is what I love to see. As I mentioned earlier in this video, the fact that I went with a 256 gig version means that I get faster storage. So let's test that out. As you can see, our write speed is around the gigabyte per second, the read speed is around 1.15 gigabytes per second, and obviously the random reads and writes are a fair bit slower. With that, let's move on to Antutu. Alright, so with the Antutu benchmark done, we see that the results are essentially a little bit better than the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 and below the Gen 2. The results differ slightly, I would say around 1% from run to run. The best I got was 1,090,000 something, which is pretty close to this, but either way, it's a little bit better than the Gen 1 and below the Gen 2. With the benchmarks out of the way, let me reiterate real quick that this tablet is completely fine in daily tasks. This tablet supports Wi-Fi 6 and not Wi-Fi 7, but I recently downgraded my Wi-Fi setup, so my Wi-Fi setup is also Wi-Fi 6, so let's do a quick speed test. I have a 4 gigabit per second symmetrical internet connection, and my Wi-Fi could technically do a maximum of gigabit upload or download. The results that we have, 575 download, 272 upload, are pretty much on par with what you would expect from a Wi-Fi 6 device. The coverage is pretty good. Even when I go to the far end of my apartment, I can still get a decent connection, around the 300 megabit per second download speed and 150 upload, which is perfectly serviceable. With that out of the way, let's keep talking about how well this tablet performs in daily use. I already mentioned that the Chinese ROM doesn't cause any problems, so let's look at some of the features that this tablet has. The first one is the fingerprint reader built into the power button. Let me just lock the tablet. I touch, and there we go. It's very quick to unlock. I usually don't have good luck with fingerprint readers in general, but this one seems to be working fine. You can add multiple fingers, and the process is rather easy. We just go to settings. And then we go to safety and emergency. Nope, we go to biometrics and passwords. We are going to add more fingerprints. For that, we need to put in our password. With that, we have the option to add another finger, and that's just going to be my index finger. And it's on. This tablet also has face recognition, but it seems like it's only using the camera and it doesn't have any sensors, therefore it's not going to be as safe as Face ID or Windows Hello. That's why I didn't end up using it. Speaking of that, we can have a look at the front camera. Let's just scroll down, open up our camera. I think this might be defaulting to the rear camera. Let's switch it, and there we go. It's decent for daily use, but it is definitely not as good as a high-end iPhone camera or high-end smartphone camera in general, but that is to be expected. This is a cheaper device, so it's not going to perform as well. Either way, it's nice to have a 2-camera setup, and the front camera is perfectly fine for Zoom or online video calls. Another interesting quirk that we have is that there is a security app that has a bunch of different options. One of them is RAM cleanup, which used to be super popular with Android devices. There's a space cleaner app, which I'm assuming only removes the cached stuff. There's also an antivirus right here that can scan your apps and tell you if there's anything problematic. Otherwise, there's a bunch of different stuff. You can check what opens up at boot. There's also an option to control what apps have network access. You can lock certain apps. You can set a bunch of different settings, and this is just a nice to have. I don't really see myself using many of these options, but I know there are a lot of people out there who like these stuff, so it's good that this tablet has a built-in app for this. There's also a PC mode, which is quite nice. It's under settings, you can just look for PC, and when you turn it on, it switches this PC mode. I can try to, yeah, we won't be able to rotate the screen because this is made for the keyboard that Lenovo has, and the dots are on this side, so they expect you to connect the keyboard here and use the tablet as a laptop. I like this interface. There's a start menu with all the apps. Obviously the icons are closer to one another because you're expected to use a mouse or a trackpad. All in all, I like this because it resembles Windows or any other desktop operating system, and it's just a nice to have. Speaking of the PC mode, there's a keyboard that you can get for this tablet straight from Lenovo. It costs around $150, and to me that was quite expensive. Instead, I have a cheap case and I already had Bluetooth peripherals lying around, so those are what I use. I mentioned earlier in the video that the main reason why I got a tablet was so that I could take notes on it. And as a direct result of that, I got the Lenovo Pen as well. It costs around $40 on AliExpress, and if you want to get it directly from Lenovo, it's $55. I'll start with the good stuff. It's quite light and it's on the larger side, so when you're taking notes with it, it's quite comfortable. Also, in my opinion, the typing experience is just great. It's better than the Apple Pencil and the Surface Pen. It also magnetically attaches to the tablet. On the other hand, not everything is good about this pen. First and foremost, it charges over USB-C and there is no USB-C cable included in the box. This would be fine, except, well, it magnetically attaches to the tablet, so I would expect that it charges through there as well. I understand that this is a cost-cutting measure and it's not a huge deal considering that we're dealing with a $400 tablet. What I do have a problem though is the place where it attaches to the tablet. It's on the back and it's on top, so when you have the tablet on a stand, that is the only place that you can't really see. So if you want to pick up the tablet or adjust the stand angle, the pen will fall. In my opinion, it should have been attached to the side. And with that, we can move on to the battery life. It is a 10,200 mAh battery, and I wanted to see how long the battery would last. I set up a sample scenario where there would be 4K YouTube playing at all times with a bunch of apps open in the background as well as in the split screen mode, and in that case, the battery lasted a whopping 9 hours. In my opinion, this is completely fine. In reality, you're not gonna use your tablet like this. You're gonna have some apps open, but not as many as I did. And if you really do want to conserve some battery, you can downgrade the image quality or you can turn on the battery saver mode. Either way, in my opinion, 9 hours is pretty good. And with that, we can move on to gaming. The fact that we have 256 gigs of storage is a nice plus here, since a lot of games out there are quite large, so we have enough storage for a bunch of games now. I tried 5 of them: EA FC Mobile, F1 Clash, Call of Duty, Fortnite, and Rainbow Six Siege. I will start with the game that didn't fare well: Fortnite. I was quite excited about this because I've never played Fortnite on a mobile device before, but unfortunately, it is just not playable. The frame rates stay around 10 FPS, and that is at the lowest settings, so that's just not going to happen. The rest of the games though, they are all playable. EA FC Mobile does allow you to set the frame rate to 120 or a higher refresh rate than 60, and the gameplay is quite smooth. The same thing applies for Call of Duty. I downloaded the HD textures, and even with that, the experience was just fine. And in general, the game seemed to be playing just fine on this tablet, with the notable exception of Fortnite. And with that, we can get to the conclusion. This has been a long video. I think this is one of the longest videos that I've ever made. And overall, honestly, at this price point, which is around 400 Canadian dollars, I don't think you can get a better tablet. Whatever this tablet claims that it does it just fine. The material quality is good, it's quick, the battery life is fine, the Wi-Fi coverage is good, the pen works just fine, and overall, once again, this tablet checks all the boxes that I wanted it to check. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking this video, checking out my other videos, and subscribing to my channel. Take care.